So if you've been struggling with motivating yourself to start a new habit, and at the same time you've been looking for some tools that can help you to stop bad habits, this video is for you. According to 2009 study published in European Journal of Social Psychology, it takes between 18 to 254 days to form a new habit. Also, that study concluded that it takes roughly 66 days for a new behavior to become automatic. So why these bad habits are so easy to form? And a quick answer to that question is dopamine. So dopamine is responsible for giving us this pleasurable experience, so-called dopamine hit, when we engage in these addictive behaviors. Unfortunately, once we start engaging in these behaviors, the dopamine is also responsible for motivation and cravings for the same behavior, which is a self-propelling mechanism that makes it so difficult to unlearn these behaviors. We're all familiar with easy forming habits, like engaging in social media, playing video games, online shopping, and the list just goes on and on. So the reason why these behaviors are so addictive is because of the immediate release of dopamine in response to participating in these behaviors. On the other hand, we have hard habits to form. Habit of waking up early, habit of going to the gym, habit of drinking water first thing in the morning. All of these habits require significantly more effort at your part, which is why they're so difficult to implement, especially in early stages of habit forming. The important thing to remember is that there's this element of a friction that all of us will experience when either trying to implement a new habit or stop participating in a habit that's quite problematic. So that knowledge alone can be very helpful in terms of knowing what to expect when trying to either form a new habit or stop a problematic habit. So first thing that we'll need to do is to become fully aware of the habit that we would like to change. It may seem easy because all we have to do is to be aware of these things that we're doing, but in reality, it's much harder than you think. Part of the reason why habits are so difficult to change is the fact that they're so automatic, that we don't really have to put any conscious effort into performing them because we just do them unconsciously. So the second thing will be to identify cues that are triggering the problematic behavior. These can be people, places, or things that are lying around our house. Once you identify the cues, you have to figure out how you're going to remove them from your environment. Out of sight, out of mind. So if you have a problem with eating too many sugary things, you just stop buying sugary things and don't keep them lying around in your house. If you have a problem with engaging too much in social media, you should delete the social media apps from your phone. Some of us have a problem with online shopping, and for those people, the best advice will be to unsubscribe from all online shops. What you have to remember that when you're going to start implementing these new behaviors, these new habits, there will be this element of friction that I've been talking about before. And you have to be aware that this is completely normal. This is something that we're gonna experience, but one thing that I can guarantee you, that as you engage in these more positive behaviors for longer and longer, and once you stop participating in these negative behaviors, the level of friction that you will experience will ultimately subside, and the new behavior will become more automatic. And I know that some of us can control ourselves better than others, but for a vast majority of us, this method, out of sight, out of mind, is the best method to implement. Because if these things are removed from our nearest environment, they're not tempting us to participate in behavior, and they're making it much more difficult to engage in other behaviors that could potentially be problematic. So far, we've only been talking about these negative habits, but what are the positive habits and how do we implement those in our daily life? It's important, especially in the very early stages of a habit formation, to have a certain time of the day when we're going to perform these behaviors. For vast majority of people, this time is going to be in early hours of the day rather than later hours of the day. The reason for that is that in the morning, we have significantly more willpower than we have in the evening. If you think about it, when we go to work first thing in the morning, we're refreshed, we're full of energy, but as the day progresses, that level of energy that we have reduces. And unfortunately, as that energy reduces, our self-discipline and our ability to restrain ourselves from doing these negative things and to participate in more positive things is being reduced. So the important thing that I've talked to you about in the beginning of this video is the time needed to form a new habit. In many people's mind, all it takes is 2 to 3 weeks before they can form a new habit. In reality, it depends on a habit. If you have some easy to implement habit, and let's say, for example, drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning, this habit will definitely be much easier to implement than a habit of going to gym 5 days a week. That's why it's very important not to give up on new exercise regime, let's say, after a month or 2 months of participating. Because for most of us, this time will not be long enough for that new behavior to become automatic. And I know that most people are looking for an easy fix. What can I do to get into a positive habit without putting any effort? Unfortunately, the only habits that are easy to form are bad habits. When you start participating in new behavior, that element of friction, that element of resistance should be utilized to your advantage. What do I mean by this? You need to tell yourself that it's going to be hard, but you need to think about this reward in form of dopamine that you'll receive at the completion of the new behavior. And that alone ultimately will help you change the way you look at this new activity. So what you need to do before you will engage in this new habit, you need to tell yourself that yes, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And every time you'll complete that new habit, you have to reward yourself by telling yourself that yes, it was hard, but I did it. And since I was able to do it, I'm able to do it again and again. And as you start seeing a positive results of this new habit, let's say new exercise habit, in terms of increased strength, increased stamina, improved mood, a better well-being in general, you will start releasing dopamine in response to that feeling. The main piece of information I would like you to derive from this video is that forming a new habit, especially a challenging habit, takes time, takes effort, and takes perseverance. But I want you to know that it's possible for you to achieve it. So what you have to remember is that if you implement a new habit in your life, don't give up on it in a month, 2 months, or even 3 months after implementing it. Give it at least 254 days before you give up. If you lasted that long, I hope you enjoyed it. If so, consider liking that video and subscribing to our channel for more content like that. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you next time.